Live from WTOC, the Southeast News leader. The News Now starts on WTOC Plus.
We start with a breaking news health alert here on WTOC Plus. A local baby has contracted Georgia's first measles case of 2026. Here's what we know. It was a baby who lives in the Coastal Health District, which encompasses the 7 counties of Bryan, Camden, Chatham, Effingham, Glynn, Liberty, Long, and McIntosh. In a press release, the Georgia Department of Public Health said the baby caught the virus while traveling internationally, and that baby was too young to receive the routine measles vaccination. This is the first reported measles case in Georgia in 2026. Now, the virus is highly contagious and spreads through the air when a person coughs or sneezes. Symptoms typically appear 7 to 14 days after exposure and include a high fever, cough, runny nose, watery eyes, all before a rash of red spots appear. Now, the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella vaccine can prevent the virus. The CDC recommends children receive their first dose between 12 and 15 months old and a second dose between 4 and 6 years old. The DPH says more than 95% of people who receive a single dose will develop immunity to the 3 viruses, and a second dose boosts immunity to 98%. Well, this is developing news we continue to follow here on WTOC Plus. The Savannah Police Department says they responded to a shooting on the 100 block of Lawton Avenue. Here's pictures from the scene from just about an hour ago. Police were dispatched to the scene around 10:30 this morning, where they found a juvenile male victim who had been shot in an alley and then later fled into a home. Police say the juvenile suffered a potentially life-threatening shot in the abdomen, and he is currently in the hospital receiving treatment. Again, police officers are still out there, and the investigation is active and ongoing. We'll continue to keep you updated as we learn more. A Savannah man is in jail after a woman was shot off of West State Street yesterday morning. 21-year-old Kevin Smith Jimenez Morales was arrested in connection to a shooting around 3 a.m. A woman was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening gunshot wounds. Investigators say witnesses helped play a role by providing a name and car information that led to a traffic stop, which led to his arrest. Morales faces multiple charges, including domestic aggravated assault, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and reckless driving. The Jasper County Sheriff's Office has taken control and responsibility of the county's detention center. It all comes after officials found that the facility wasn't meeting operational standards. This morning, Sheriff Chris Malfris swore in existing detention officers as official Jasper County Sheriff's deputies. The ceremony marked the first step in integrating the detention center into the Sheriff's Office operations. Sheriff Malfris agreed to bring the facility under his office's authority to ensure accountability, compliance, and improved conditions. The sheriff said his office will focus on improving staffing levels, addressing necessary repairs, and prioritizing safety for both detention officers and inmates. About 2 hours outside of Savannah, a possible prison riot killed 3 inmates yesterday. It happened at the Washington State Prison in Washington County, Georgia. The sheriff says several fights broke out before 13 inmates were sent to the hospital. The sheriff says a correctional officer was injured as well. Now, we're told multiple agencies responded to the prison, including the Washington County Sheriff's Office, Georgia State Patrol, local police, and the Johnson County Sheriff's Office.
It's been quite some time since we've had to come to an incident this large. I mean, we do respond out here to help with, smaller scale incidents, but today was probably one of the bigger ones we've had here in some time.
The Department of Corrections is investigating. Right now, it's unknown what led up to those fights. Well, today, Georgia state lawmakers are back to work returning to the state's capital. Both Republicans and Democrats are expected to focus on issues central to their base ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. Organizations like the ACLU of Georgia and Indivisible Georgia Coalition encourage Georgia residents to pack the Capitol for the first day of the legislative session. Georgia House Speaker John Burns says some of his top priorities include increasing the state's literacy rate and bolstering the state's healthcare workforce. There's also the debate over eliminating the state income tax and lowering property taxes. Meanwhile, the ACLU of Georgia and Indivisible Georgia Coalition say they want the focus to be on bills that will protect voting rights, DEI programs, and affordable health care. They say it's important lawmakers hear from residents and that residents know how to reach out to their representatives about issues that matter most to them.
That the bill gets created the way you want and you can vote for it later. You have to tell them what you care about, how certain language would impact you or your neighbors or your family or your friends.
And even more importantly, we're going to show up on the polls in November. So if they're not doing what we need them to do here during legislative session, we'll let that be known in November.
Lawmakers will also take up a bill that would ban cell phones in every high school. And our very own state reporter Abby Kasoris will have daily stories throughout the legislative session from the state capitol. You can watch those each evening on WTOC and each morning right here on WTOC+. Turning now to news out of South Carolina, Attorney General Alan Wilson released the state's human trafficking report. Using data from the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, Social Services, and other agencies, the report outlined the progress as well as improvements that can be made in the state. Wilson says his department investigated more than 300 human trafficking victims last year. And while the number of cases are going up, so are the number of people being prosecuted.
13 years ago, no one was talking about human trafficking. 13 years ago, there was not a robust organization like the one that we have here today out there training across every sector of government and the private sector and the nonprofit sector and the faith sector. I mean, literally, we are bringing people together to raise awareness so people are now looking for it.
Wilson said their investigations in 41 of 46 counties last year, with Greenville County, South Carolina, having the most cases. Well, protesters gathered outside Tybee Island City Hall Saturday to voice concerns about recent incidents nationally involving ICE. Local demonstrators say they were moved by reports of an agent shooting and killing a woman in Minnesota. They turned out to show solidarity and call for accountability. Participants stressed their desire for peaceful protest and community support, saying they want more people to research and understand what's happening nationally and how it impacts communities locally. Turning now to national news, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell confirmed he's under investigation by the Trump administration. It all comes as the administration has scrutinized an ongoing renovation at the central bank's office building in Washington, D.C. But Powell signaled he thinks the probe is really about interest rates. CBS's Natalie Brand has the latest from the White House.
Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats.
In a rare video statement, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell revealed the Justice Department served grand jury subpoenas Friday, threatening a criminal indictment related to his congressional testimony last June about renovations at the Fed office building. The Trump administration has criticized the project, estimated at $2.5 billion, as costly and ostentatious. But Powell says the unprecedented action comes in the face of ongoing threats and pressure to lower interest rates.
The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president.
Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have blasted the probe. Republican Tom Tillis said in a statement, now the independence and credibility of the Department of Justice are in question.
Are you worried that the probe undermines the independence of the central bank and could destabilize the markets?
I guess the question is, if you think the building costs $20 billion or $10 billion, do you think at some point that it's appropriate for the federal government to investigate?
The Trump administration says it's prioritizing investigating any abuse of taxpayer dollars. But the Federal Reserve is self-funded and an independent agency. In recent months, President Trump has repeatedly criticized Powell and previously threatened to fire him.
He should be fired. Guy's grossly incompetent.
Powell's term as Fed chair ends in May, but he remains on the Board of Governors until 2028. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
In health news, the U.S. is battling a severe flu season, and health officials aren't sure if it's peaked yet. A new and dominant flu variant called subclad K is causing concern. More than 91% of these infections are a new version not included in this year's flu shots. So far, at least 15 million Americans have fallen ill, with 180,000 hospitalized. The Atlanta-based CDC estimates 7,400 deaths, including at least 17 children. Now, in Georgia, the Department of Public Health has reported 46 flu-related deaths statewide between the start of October and January 3rd. That is the most recent data we have available. Staying in state news, affordable housing is a statewide issue. According to a Harvard University study, our state has lost more than 67,000 affordable rental units in just 3 years. That's one of the steepest declines in the entire country. Most affordable housing in Georgia is built through the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. Developers agree to keep rents affordable for decades, and in exchange, they operate on thin margins. But in some Georgia counties, property taxes now consume 25 to 50% of total revenue. Developers warn if taxes keep rising, projects will stall, investors will walk away, and families will have fewer, if any, options.
Without affordable housing, employers can't find employees because there aren't places for people to live that are affordable. It is really, truly critical infrastructure.
The head of the Georgia Affordable Housing Coalition says lawmakers need to consider reforms. Turning now to consumer news, one of the world's largest technology trade shows wrapped up in Las Vegas over the weekend. CES draws thousands of global tech brands and startups, and this year all eyes were on AI, from live-in robots to flying cars. CBS's Evan Moon takes us inside the tech putting intelligence on wheels.
Among all the smart robots, TVs, tables, glasses, and other AI-powered tech at CES in Las Vegas, the transformation of transportation had its moment.
AI is definitely the big trend at CES 2026, and physical AI in particular, which is kind of a new term for encompassing everything from self-driving cars to robotics.
This year, self-driving tech entered the fast lane with remote operators focused on safety.
When the vehicle comes in front of you, there's actually no one inside, but there's a human that actually brought it there remotely.
And straight out of a sci-fi movie, LG is turning car windows into smart screens, which among other things, display translated conversations with someone outside the car on the glass. BMW showcased Alexa Plus AI for your own more natural chat with your car.
Can you recommend some restaurants in Las Vegas?
Zio's is closest. Also, don't drive angry. Smart cars may soon be able to read a driver's mood.
Are they sleepy? Are they drowsy? Are they not seated properly? Are they eating, talking on phones? Are they angry? You name it, we can figure out how to detect that in the cabin, and that's a lot of what we show here.
And Sony Honda wants you to have more cabin space, announcing a 2028 model with enough room to turn traffic jams into game time. It's not just cars getting smart behind the wheel. AI is in everything from autonomous tractors to robotic mowers. It all had consumers at CES revved up about the road ahead.
The AI stuff is really unbelievable. The lawnmowers, the technology to make human chores so much easier is definitely there.
A future that's moving fast and rolling into everyday life. Evan Moon, CBS News, New York.
All right, finally, David fought Goliath, and this month a small deer sparred with a giant rhino. It happened at a zoo in Poland, as you can see. The little deer was clearly unaware of his own size, charging at the rhino repeatedly. Neither animal got hurt, we should make sure y'all know. And after a couple back and forths challenging dominance, the deer ran out of the rhino's pen. Very cute video. All right, and with that, we are going to wrap things up here for the news on WTOC Plus. We appreciate y'all spending part of your afternoon with us. Happy Monday. The week is ahead of us. We will be back in just about 45 minutes for Welcome to Our Community with Dawn Baker at 3 o'clock. And in the meantime, you can always head on over to our website to get the latest updates at WTOC.com. Thanks for watching, and here's Local News Live.